Good evening and welcome to Jax. Thank you so much for joining us here this evening. I know it's been a long day. I hope you've all had a great time. We're here to talk a little bit about AIOps and hopefully get you some interesting information. I'm joined here on stage tonight by Christian Schneider and Torsten Köster. If you wouldn't mind, take a moment to introduce yourselves.
My name is Torsten. I'm a freelance software engineer, and I build observability platforms for software stacks, especially for search applications, and I do all the funny ops stuff, pretty much. So that's pretty much my background.
Good one. Yeah, Christian, also freelancer, but more on the security side. So that means basically security architecture, threat modeling, and also penetration testing. And that definitely, all of that gets some kind of AI spin, and to discuss about that, that's what I'm looking for today.
Sure. So we said we're going to talk about AIOps, but I want to start by kind of defining what that means to each of you. Like, I feel like it's a loaded term, and there may be some nuance involved.
Definitely. So personally, I take it as utilizing AI to get ops more well done, I would say. So not only automation, but also have some AI augmentation on that not necessarily includes security inherently, but it can be used also in incident response stuff, so that also some kind of ops-related things. But also observability, monitoring, just the keeping things running things. That's what I take there. And I do draw a line between AIOps and MLOps, because MLOps is more about the ops of where, in my perspective, where you automate things, how you build your models and train those pipelines.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to distinguish the AIOps term into two like category. The one thing is AI for ops, where I use AI to make my ops day-to-day work better, where I do my analytics just using AI, because in the end, operations or observability data is just data, and I can use AI to make sense out of it. And the other thing is that I use basically ops for AI, where I have LLMs or AI-driven applications, and where I use, where I basically inject observability into my application stack, and where I use observability to monitor and to trace my AI applications.
Okay. Talk about that just a little bit more. Tell me more about the operations for your AI.
Operations for AI applications is kind of fundamentally different than just regular applications, because with AI applications, tracing gets way more important to get, and not only tracing, you just need a ton more of traces. With classic applications, you might implement some tracing, like hotel tracing or whatnot, and you may sample your requests to get a good overview or a basic view of your deterministic operations in your application. If you have an LLM doing the magic trick in your application, then you basically should like trace 100% of your traces to get the full view, because you open up when using LLMs in applications, you open up your application to non-deterministic, to the entropy of the world, and it will do funny things. Yeah. I mean, I just had a talk and did a live demo, and it basically did funny things. It broke out of the prompt, and it broke my tests, and we tried to make sense of it, and we couldn't. But with a proper observability in place and proper tracing, we were at least able to see that the input data was right, and the LLM just kind of flipped.
Right. So that makes perfect sense. It also really opens the door for talking a little bit about security, and maybe even a little bit about threat modeling. How do you kind of prepare for this type of scenario where the AI goes wild?
Interesting, yeah, definitely. So first time I saw AIOps demos as a threat modeler or penetration tester, you usually think of trust boundaries, of untrusted data, of things that can go wrong and will be abused, so about blast radius if something happens. And usually from a security perspective, logs for me, forensic analysis, are more traces and evidence, something. usually read by a human or by a tool that automated stuff in a deterministic way.
Yep.
But when you now ingest that into an LLM, basically we have some kind of fuzzy decision-making thing going on. That means, as a security person, I thought about, well, isn't that untrusted data, the logs that we are processing with that system? So isn't it that the headers, error messages, possibly user input, if it's logged, whatever, or anything that can be influenced by some outside threat actor, now being analyzed by some LLM-based agent that can be social engineered using prompt injection tricks. So it draws a line where I think it can be a vehicle for the attacker as well.
Right.
And speaking about blast radius, when you do have decision-making systems in agentic or any kind of AI systems that you utilize in AIOps, you have things like production credentials. You have things like tools that you can access. If it has kubectl, well, then here we go. So basically, what can go wrong if that model planning phase is hijacked? That's where I think about it. But on the other side, it's something where the offensive usage of AI is tremendously increasing. Of course, the offenders are the first ones to take action on that. So we need to level the play field again a little bit by utilizing AI also on the defensive side. So it's not a no-go, but we have to think about the consequences, the pros and the cons, actually.
So I had a conversation with some folks from the Node.js team a while ago, and one of the things that they brought up is that it's actually sometimes the dev tools that are the largest surface area for attacks, not even as much or more than what is in production in some cases. So my question to you related to that is, do you feel that utilizing AI in operations on the operations side, on the DevOps side, is more of a risk than having the AI in the product that you're shipping or delivering?
Good one. So it depends also on the blast radius of the credentials you're having. So when you do the hygiene on the credential side or the developer's perspective, you're obviously not having production access at high leverage. Hopefully not. But still you have got viable targets at stake that way. And we have seen in the last couple of months successful supply chain attacks, Node ecosystem, Python ecosystem, others as well, where the attackers were utilizing developer tools actually to backdoor CI/CD systems and get a big blast radius, and to that way make their path towards other more interesting targets, I would say. So that's something we have to take care of, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's using AI in ops. I'm kind of skeptical still. I mean, we all heard the funny story of Amazon where their AI bot just took down the whole production environment, and I think it happened. They had safeguards in place, and I think the engineer who supervised the agent clicked on yes like 20 times, and on the 21st times he said, "Okay, forget it, just do it," and it basically took down the whole production environment. But it opens up a whole new attack vector that we don't even think of. I mean, what I do is, if every morning I go to my customer projects and I ask Claude, well, connect to the Grafana, look in Loki for error messages, look at the metrics. If you find something suspicious, look at the code and hook the developer up on Slack with the root cause. It works, but what just came to my mind is, what if the logs are poisoned with funny stuff that my prompt just makes it go crazy?
Exactly. Yeah. So it doesn't even need to be a hacker. So it could be an accident as well. So it's it sounds like Chaos Monkey on steroids to me. But on the other side, if it were a hacker, then the at least worst case would be to just suppress alerts. So like ignore previous instructions in the logs, and this is just a reconciliation test, and no alerts to be sent, stuff like that, hiding your traces for a little bit of time. But on the worst case side of that, it's that you have a blast radius, a set of credentials, tool access. So when you're building those AIOps pipelines or agents actually, or automation in any way, it really makes sense to think about read versus write access, and a very well-architectured human-in-the-loop thing, so that's not being rubber-stamped in human-in-the-loop fatigue. So that needs to be well thought out, and that needs to be possibly threat modeled. And then you have the typical controls like isolation, sandboxing for this as well, least privilege, need to know principle, and something like that.
So it's just the good old privileges that basically holds everything together.
History repeats.
So we should basically treat our agent like the very junior developer with just the read writes.
Could be. Yeah. Or Chaos Monkey on steroids.
Yeah.
I actually was doing a little bit of research this afternoon and saw a really great product. I'm like, I really want to use this on my documents. And I went to install it, and I looked at the permissions, and it was like, I need the ability to create, edit, and delete all of your documents. And I knew that it was running an AI agent under the hood. I'm like, maybe not. Maybe let's not do that.
Exactly. Same thing that I see when experimenting from a security perspective with different apps and solutions and tools that you can connect to GitHub, for example, as an app, or any kind of giving permissions. And I really sense different security styles there. Some are very, I would say, advanced in thinking about least privileges and giving you the option to select certain repositories, and the other repositories are not accessible on the scope, and the others just read-write everything. And I won't do that.
But it's just so convenient.
So it's for the hacker as well. So exactly.
That's the problem, basically. Yeah.
So where, in your perspective, I know you both have slightly different focuses in this area, but where would you say is a good fit for introducing AI into architecture or into kind of your development lifecycle versus where do you feel that a more traditional technique is maybe better or safer at this current moment?
I like AI for just the grunt work, like plowing through logs and metrics and dashboards and just looking for something odd and then making sense of all the data. So if you have your connectors in read mode, I think then that just saves a lot of time. So that's what I like for AI and ops. So that's the stuff I like. And if you introduce AI into your application, I mean, it opens up a whole new class of application that on the first look just feels like magic. So you're able to solve problems you are not able to solve with deterministic software, like email classification or having a chatbot really human feel and directing a shopper to a product and guiding him to a product. So that's something only AI can do, but indeed, it opens up a whole new class of problems and security problems, and you need your guardrails in place. So I think it's here to stay. And we're going to see a lot more.
Definitely. So for me personally, I think it's a trade-off I personally choose between, is it somehow automatable, what I would like to achieve, even if it's a one-shot automation, it can be automated, or is it something that I need fuzziness for? And when I don't need the fuzziness for that, and I still utilize the AI to do the stuff under the hood, it's creating a Python script. So most of the times. So then I utilize AI to understand, in that particular case, the problem, and that I would to get solved, and abstract from that to a solution that I can repeat and create code for that I have then created an automation that I can use without AI. And when you're doing this on the data that's creating it with AI, that's not that at stake or not risky, not that sensitive, then you can repeat the process, given the program you can review at a later stage and with more important data. So utilizing AI, because of me being a developer still, of course, as developer enhancement, and to solve problems that you couldn't give just a one-shot thing to the AI by itself, but I think about utilize the AI to create the automation and make that reusable. Or on the other side, the trade-off where AI really excels out, way of the charts, is when you have fuzziness in the problem domain. That includes correlation of logs, forensic analysis, response playbooks, stuff like that, and other use cases, especially when you're interacting with humans, like chatbots for customer services. Yeah.
How do you think differently about systems architecture today versus maybe 5 years ago?
Yeah, good one. Faster in terms of development pace.
Sure.
So we need to catch up with that also from a security perspective. Way more, no, not really. So I was about to say way more supply chain risk connected, but the risk was evident before that as well. But now it's been exploited.
Right.
And I would also say way more fragile, because the offensive persons are utilizing AI at scale. I've seen prototypes of AI agents that are just fed with information of the CVE, no data about exploits, and it takes 20 minutes and has a full exploit chain developed, including a test setup to prove the patched version is not vulnerable, but the unpatched version is vulnerable. So that means the automation loop and totally AI automated exploitation is already working.
Right.
And I would put my bets on the table to say 2026, and others are saying this as well, I say, we are about to see a major data breach, which was totally AI driven.
If I look at infrastructure like 5 years ago now, I would say if you have done your homework, then you can utilize AI in operations or in your development lifecycle the best.
Yeah.
If you have a working CI pipeline, if you have continuous deployment, a full CD pipeline, if you have automated infrastructure, then you can make the best sense out of AI, because it knows how to write Terraform.
Yep.
It knows that it just needs to push the commit, or you can push the commit and things get deployed. If you have like a lot of custom code, a lot of bulky enterprise code laying around, if you just have manual deployment, you won't get the pace out of AI or AI coding in general.
So would you say that there are specific practices that you would recommend people put in place now to start achieving the desired results out of an AI rollout?
Yeah, I think it's more than just installing a coding harness and getting the Cloud Code Max subscription. It's your whole infrastructure needs to be ready for and needs to follow the standards. I mean, I have customers that have their own build tool. They just developed it themselves. I don't know why, but they did it. And or it's like some clumsy bash thing. If you have defaults like Maven Gradle, and then your coding harness can work with it.
Yep.
You don't have to customize your coding harness. It works. If you have like GitHub, GitLab, and use the CLI, it knows how to treat your code and how to deploy your code. And I think that's the most important thing. Stick to the standards. So then you can get up to speed. But that's not just it's not for just the coding harness or your AI. I think it's for everything, for even for humans, for onboarding.
Yeah.
If you stick to standards, you get faster pace.
Makes sense. So personally, I would say from a security perspective, I prefer the structural controls we are used to apply since years over the probabilistic ones. So I prefer the deterministic ones over the probabilistic ones, because structural controls like sandboxing, process isolation, egress traffic filtering for command and control and exfiltration blocking, and classic monitoring things, they really, in any way, in case the AI gets breached or gets haywire, they contain it to some regard. So that means doing the defense in-depth homework, we always train people to do, and that means those structural controls, network and process isolation, stuff like that, and also the hygiene of the identities you're giving to your agents. So think about what service account identity, what agent is working with, and when you do agentic loops, who calls with what kind of identity. So at the end, when you're giving a service account or an identity to an AI system, it's a service account that can be social engineered. That's the point. So we need to have some kind of fuzziness in accepting some kind of risk. And for that, we need to stack on more defense and depth controls but also still taking in the probabilistic ones that definitely also make sense on top of that, like classifiers for prompt ejections and observability classifiers for goal hijacking and stuff like that. So at the end, it's the classic defense in depth plus a little bit of agentic AI security controls.
Right. So looking back in time just a little bit, what would you say are some of the key milestones that got us to this point in AIOps and where we are with operations and observability? Like, these are things that have been slowly building over a long period of time, but what are you would say some of the key milestones are that got us to this point where we are today?
That's a good one. I think, in my perspective, it's the Claude Code adoption. I mean, how people's eyes lighten up if they talk about the wonderful things they did with Claude Code. And to me personally, Claude Code, it sometimes it feels just like magic, but my goal is now to step back from Claude Code and really embrace more open source coding harnesses like open code and be able to switch some models, use other models. But I think that's that's kind of compressed the whole AI coding movement.
Yeah.
It was, I think, the coding harness it just went to another level then, with all the implications that we're able to do. And while the sort of vibe-coded code was clearly identifiable before, I think now we're at a level where we just cannot distinguish vibe or AI-coded code from human-coded code. So there was this line that has been crossed.
It gets definitely better. So in the couple of months ago, there were major improvements indeed. So that's crazy, and positively speaking. And speaking of milestones, I think it's where Claude definitely delivered. It's connectivity, so meaning MCP, meaning also other kind of backend calls. And the agentic loop in general, when you use coding agents or any kind of other agents you're building, that you can observe the result and get better on that and try again and fix it and create a test and see it doesn't work and now this is breaking, fix it as well. And then at the end, eventually it works. And also, I think personally, a big milestone was putting that kind of magic, where we all say Claude Code magic, whatever it is, or any product you use, putting that into the hands of the no coders or of the business people.
Yeah.
And that was the aha moment I realized when skills were introduced, because now you can create with human language in the Markdown document an agent, an agentic loop, and have sub-agents doing things. And you don't need to program that. You can just talk to it. And essentially even this is not required because you can utilize the AI to create it.
Right.
And that works also quite well. So that was something where I say programming personally shifts to a new language level. So now we have a way higher abstraction. We started with assembler, then we got to some other kind of first generation languages, then we got to procedural languages, then we got object-oriented languages. You all know that game. And now you're speaking to an AI not only to create code, but to create instructions in terms of the skill of the business problem you're about to solve, and the AI then does it by generating code on the fly. That's thinking some big of milestone.
To me, it feels like having a fuzzy bash script. So a skill feels like a fuzzy bash script that I just call, like my morning briefing. I couldn't write that in bash, but given the MCP connectors Claude Code has, it perfectly delivers a summary of my inbox. So that's cool.
So one of the interesting things that happens in this world when we're using normal language, everyday language to build things, and we have this connectivity that empowers, like you said, business people to build potentially complex systems. I wonder if you're starting to see any challenges there. So there have been a couple interesting public examples where somebody that was not a developer used these tools to build effectively a social media platform that predictably imploded almost immediately because they hadn't considered security, they hadn't considered stability, or any of these things. What is the risk to those of us who have to manage infrastructure and systems and keep things running and keep things secure? How do we provide the right level of protection and guardrails and in this world without taking the wide open power away from people?
Yeah, so when we're creating code that way, so that basically means something that is being possibly created vulnerable, of course, I've seen that, and or not reliable enough. So for those things, the aforementioned classic stuff, definitely isolation, sandboxing, stuff like that, but also you can utilize AI to review code, and so that possibly requires some kind of mind shift to utilize different AIs for different kind of tasks on that whole development life cycle. And eventually it will be the creation of a new skill set that is no longer a developer, but some kind of a creator that knows how to create that and how to utilize the AI in the correct way, that you not end up with something that's just blowing up on day 1 or day 2 when you go live.
Yeah, I mean, you have to distinguish between like the throwaway code you can easily write and deploy, and it works just fine for your like 5 people visiting your website. But I think if you want to write code that lives longer than, let's just say, a week, you need to, it basically is like a very junior developer writing some kind of application and is just completely missing out on all the cross-cutting concerns like security, like logging, observability, like anything. And basically, any AI, coding AI, needs that feedback because you deploy your application, it blows up on day 1, and of course you can use your AI to make it better and make it not blow up or just make it blow up on day 2, but you need a feedback loop. And that feedback is coming from telemetry data, from logs or from traces. And that's the classic operational paradigm where that is all those, I mean, every system administrator can talk about it. They are only noticed if something goes wrong.
Yeah, right.
And that's just a basic cross-cutting concern every application needs.
And speaking of guardrails, it's also speaking about architecture and architecture guardrails as well that you give to the AI when you create something. So that needs to be well architected, and so doing this without any background on what can go wrong or what your minimal level of solid architecture is, or giving examples on that to the AI, then you might end up in something that blows up and on the next day just blows up differently.
Right. So touching on something you said about things blowing up, one of the things that happens a lot of times in our world is that when we as engineers have done our job well, especially if you're in an operations team, crickets. It's really easy to not get recognition or not get people notice when things break, and then we fix them, right? So do you have any stories that you can share of things going really, really well in a situation where it was kind of a non-event because you did your job well?
My first contact with AI in operations was that I built infrastructure for a startup, and they said, well, I think that was the first thing everybody thinks is, we don't need that freelancer anymore. We can do it ourselves, just coding the Terraform with AI. And so my job was basically reduced to, here's the pull request, please review. And that was horrifying because you immediately see the patterns that the AI doesn't understand the code on the server, the cloud-ended code, or the Terraform code, because it just copies things around that just completely did not make sense. And I think they're now deploying without my review. At least I don't get notified for reviews. So I wish them the best luck. But that was my first contact with AIOps code, and I thought, well, this is not working. Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah, so from my side, positive example at least was when some AI created code in a client environment was not that deeply reviewed. So it was a time where more vulnerabilities were created that way. So it improved definitely, but it's not vulnerability free, never. And when you think about the classic DevOps principles of automation and scanning things, when you put more scanners and put also AI-based reviews with different AIs that you prompt quite well into that, then you get some results that at least were not having a high false positive rate and were true findings. So there was some moment where I thought, yes, so you can get true benefits.
Where do you
Because sorry, you can't review at that scale on a human.
No,
review. That was the point.
exactly. Well, that's one of the things that's such a compelling story for AI is things that required a tremendous amount of tedious human time can now be scaled up.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's always a really compelling use case. And it could be because we don't have the time or we don't have the money. Like it's just simply cost prohibitive in any other way. A lot of
regulatory wise, not allowed.
Yes, absolutely, for sure. So, where do you plan on spending your time or focus over the next year? Say, like, what are you kind of looking for or wanting to push for over the next year or so?
Yeah, personally, I think getting more the threat modeling on AI system spread out so that you shift the security focus on the timeline left to think about what can go wrong with this new tool landscape we have and the fuzziness we have in that. So that means also security testing is a little bit different when you test those systems. So it's not black or white. So you don't have a unit test and you get the same example and the same input and the same output out of that. You have then also probabilistic controls like prompt injection classifiers that give you a 75% statistically relevant kind of true positive rate, but there's still this 20-ish something percent that, well, you don't know yet. Yeah. And for that, you need to have a good threat model where you think, okay, this is just filtering stuff at that percent rate, and how do we handle the remaining ones with other controls? Possibly then the structural controls kick in, and to get the security focus on the holistic system where certain controls are not either or working or breaking, but they are somewhere in between.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah, for me personally, I love to explore the boundaries, see how far I can push any model.
Good one.
And on the other hand, what I miss is like a proper AI for ops tooling, like analysis, making sense out of telemetry data, of metrics, and of log data. It works somehow, but if your data is spread out through multiple systems, which I think is kind of common, that you have your logs in some Elasticsearch and your metrics in Prometheus and your traces maybe somewhere else. That's going to be interesting, and that's what I want to explore in the next year.
Yeah.
To see how far can I push it, how good can I automate this make sense. Are there any failures? Can you directly find the root cause? And that's going to be interesting in a very vast microservice architecture. If it's just a monolith, then it's kind of easy, but that's going to be interesting.
Okay. Do you think there are any tasks or roles that are common today that may be not a thing in a year or two?
Not being common, then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would I say just classic programming? More the obvious one, but it's still here to stay, but at another level. That definitely is something I would say. And also on the security perspective, it's the classic threat hunting and incident detection and response on that. That is definitely to be augmented with AI a lot. And also what's no longer common in a year is manually created exploits during high-stake advanced persistent threat campaigns, because this is fully automated.
Yeah. We call that a win.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the operations side, it's still. I'm not sure how far it will. AI will get introduced into the whole operations stack way more than it is right now. But I cannot imagine that we get back to a world where we just use the AWS CLI and deploy things out of a prompt. So we will still have infrastructure as code, and just like any other code, is AI going to write a lot more of that.
Yep.
And the more standards we use in our code, the easier we'll get. So, but yeah, let's see how far that we can push AI there.
Right. All right. Well, what do you have that you would like to share that I have not asked you yet? Because that's one of the things that happens in these conversations, right? Like I'm sitting here asking you questions, but you both had your own presentations here at Jax, and you have a lot of work that you're doing. What are some things you would like to share that are kind of tangential to what we've been talking about so far?
I personally find it interesting to see how deep it is adopted in enterprise systems, especially in Germany.
Yeah.
Because there might be some kind of staying away from that for some companies for some kind of reasons. And I truly see the benefits of adopting things like that, with all the guardrails and security strings attached, of course. And to get some light shed on that, some numbers, hard numbers. So is it really that deeply integrated yet? Are we ready yet for that? Or is it more on a prototypical style? So sharing experiences from...
Yeah, what I'd like to see is more sharing of how do you tame your LLM in your application, because that's a topic I'm very interested in, and it's hard to find anybody else who really looks into the observability side of running an application that is LLM driven. And as I said, it's fundamentally different through the classic than the classic application, because it just you don't know when the bit flips in your AI application and when things go sideways in your code. So and you don't necessarily get an exception. So the old classic error detecting ways don't work.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of prompt engineering. It's a lot of looking into your telemetry data to analyze, or maybe use AI to analyze what went wrong and why. So that's going to be interesting, and that's going to be a whole new challenge.
Yeah, to your point, what's been interesting as I talked to developers over the last few months is we're still at a point in the AI lifecycle that there are developers that basically haven't ever written a prompt, and there are people that have been basically vibe coding for 4 or 5 years. And this is not unusual, right? When we see changes in technology, there's always the early adopters and the late adopters. It's totally normal, and it's not even unusual for that to be a 4 or 5 year period sometimes between those things. Is this, however, a change that's fundamentally different from other technological changes that shifts that we've seen? Do you think that is going to be a problem for the people who haven't done it yet? Or it's just like every other technological shift, it's fine, you'll get there eventually, we're all going to,
Yeah, so a good point. I think it's different. It definitely shares lots of common ground, but it's different. At least to me, it's different in at least one aspect, and this is the time frame and the acceleration on that. Because we saw that it just in a couple of months, things scaled out that pretty well, and feature-wise and capability-wise. So also including security stuff, strings attached. And then when you say compare that to a classic technology adoption time frame, giving you 3, 4, 5 years to be where the early adopters started as the late movers, and that's way too long, I would say. Then you're caught off guard at the end, and you can't compete anymore then.
Yep.
As a company.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I joke with colleagues that sometimes in the future there will be like a marketplace for handcrafted Java code, so that you basically offer your service that you handcraft code, and it's guaranteed AI free. Because I think there are still some areas where you don't maybe you want the AI like you want to know some details, or if your compiler breaks, you want to see something. But I think there will still be some areas where we still write handwritten code.
Might be, but let me be the devil's advocate there. Just stepping a little bit away and zooming out, why not see the AI as some kind of compiler? So when we create with a human-readable, object-oriented language something that is being translated into bytecode and then ultimately into machine code, just-in-time compiled, process instructions, it's a language that is designed for humans to describe their problems on the solutions to them, the algorithms, and get this run on the machine. So why not see that the AI can be a compiler for more business-oriented kind of programming instruction language, name it prompt, and to create code. So that might come with security guarantees and capability of bug-freeness guarantees when you just manually review it at the end. So it's that you can still review it. But I think this is going to collapse. So no one is reviewing the bytecode that the Java compiler creates. Personally, I'm not doing that. In reverse engineering, that's a different thing, yeah. But that's a different domain then. But I've seen AIs doing brilliant reverse engineering of machine code without any tools. So they were creating their tools to get the opcodes out of that. And this was very interesting. No Radara, no IDA Pro, and they were creating it quite good and in an agentic loop. And if it can be done in that direction, why not can it be done in the other one? So do we still need, on the long end, programming languages, or is not the AI possibly creating machine code?
But there's a fundamental difference between a deterministic compiler and the non-deterministic fuzzy LLM. So I think that's where we need the human in the loop. And
yeah, definitely for reviewing it, but you can test it also at the end.
Of course, you can have arc unit tests for your architecture. You can have acceptance tests. You can have all your guardrailing prompt tests. But I think there will be some islands in banking or in some crazy mainframe
defense.
Right. Defense. And that code will still be handwritten.
Yeah, definitely. So even code is handwritten and mathematically proved to be correct when it goes into space.
Yeah.
So you just avoid an if by any means because it's maximizes the test.
I agree on the acceleration, and I agree on the time to market that the utilization of AI definitely brings. But I'm not sure. I have seen so many trends come and go. It is here to stay, but I think in the end it's just another tool.
But high level, yes.
A very powerful one, but it's just another tool.
I feel that AI is here to stay, but it's already been like. Sometimes it's hard to look back and say, how long have we actually had some form of machine learning as part of our everyday world? And the answer is decades, decades and decades, at least 50 years.
Yep.
And within that context, it's already been here to stay for a really long time. Is what we have today fundamentally different? Absolutely. Is the pace of change faster than anything we've seen before? Absolutely. But just like any other technology, I think we're going to find this specific, whether it's a specific tool or a specific engine, is going to be really good at solving this type of problem. And I feel like we're eventually going to end up with very good purpose-built, this is really good at this is really good at this, and we're eventually going to end up with a little bit more nuance, again, which is almost impossible to achieve at this current pace of change. The real question then that I have, and I'd be interested in your thoughts on that as well, but also, do you think that this current pace of change is going to continue? Is it going to keep accelerating, or is it going to kind of back off at some point in the foreseeable future?
Technically, I could think of that still accelerating further when it utilizes, the AI utilizes the AI technology by itself to create new stuff. So there can be a feedback loop that's exponential growth, but it can exponentially also grow in the failure area. So that's not something that means it's a good or bad way of doing it, but it's accelerating at least. Not sure about the direction. And that's interesting. And having said that, you spoke about the decades where we are having machine learning. It's true, definitely, computer vision and all the other things. And that's a typical effect of AI systems when they are so integrated in our day-to-day world by whatever means. We no longer see it as an artificial intelligence. We just see it as a tool, which essentially it is.
I think the acceleration comes from that AI improves AI. So this is, I have fiddled around with trained models in search for ranking results on a page for like 10 years or something. But right now, the AI, improving AI is a whole new level. And I'm not sure how far this can accelerate before it blows up. Because the next generation of model Anthropic has built, they're not releasing it because they consider it too harmful that it will find 0 days exploits in any source code. So they released it to the big vendors that they are able to close their 0 day exploits before anyone out there can find them.
Makes sense. But they, I think personally, I think that also that model it's definitely capable, and it's that expensive that you also cannot release it to the public, because in terms of you don't have the capacity for that to scale, and it's also shortening artificially and something that might give you a push in marketing as well. We've seen that in other AI companies doing that, but at the end, definitely it proved its way that it found lots of 0 day vulnerabilities. So being responsible in the not disclosure but releasing process makes sense, definitely. Though there are people arguing that it's just a selected bunch of companies, so it could be a little bit more. And on the long run, I would say it doesn't take that long that other AI companies might come up with that. So the benefit that the Mythos model has apparently over the others is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And when the free models or open way models are even getting to that level, then it's something where the offensive side also kicks in quite well.
Which would be interesting, for sure. Any last words?
Exciting times. It's like living in a sci-fi movie.
It is.
Stay curious.
Fantastic. I would like to thank you both so much for being here. This has been a great conversation.
Thanks.
I appreciate your time here at Jax, and I hope you all had a great experience here. And thank you for being here. And have a good night.
Thank you very much.